The horror of Scotland's drugs death toll, and a record number of families deal with the heartbreaking loss. 3 people a day die from drug use in Scotland, the worst rates in Europe. We speak to one mum about the impact of losing her son.
He was loved beyond words. He was loved beyond words. But it's hard as a family.
Also tonight, separate fact from fiction. Pregnant women urged to get the COVID jab as more unvaccinated mums end up in hospital. After a 9-month killing spree, the man known as the Brighton cat killer is jailed for 5 years. And in Tokyo, BMX riders Beth and Kai storm the medals table in a great day for Team GB. As back home, friends and family celebrate the pair's history-making moments.
This is the ITV Evening News with Charlene White.
Good evening. The reality of the drugs crisis in Scotland became ever clearer today, with the shocking statistic that 3 people now die there every day from drug use. The latest official figures confirm Scotland's position as the worst place for drugs deaths in Europe. 1,339 people lost their lives in 2020, the 7th successive yearly increase. Grim new trends like the often fatal prevalence of mixing drugs are also emerging. The subject matter in this report from our Scotland correspondent Peter Smith may distress some viewers.
Scotland's drug deaths crisis keeps getting worse, and this is how it's happening. Within just a few minutes of that call, Cheryl returns with the drugs in her hand.
So that's 250 Valium? Aye. How much did that cost you? £10.
Cheryl is 43 and started taking drugs aged 10. She's just bought fake Valium pills, an unpredictable mix of benzodiazepines. Cheap, highly addictive, they are flooding Scotland's poorest communities.
And this is a delicate question, Cheryl, but are you never worried that you just won't wake up?
Sometimes I'm not gonna lie to you. Sometimes I wish when I wake up.
More than 1,300 people died from drugs in 2020, the worst on record. A majority of these deaths involved the benzodiazepine pills, and Scotland's drug death rate is now 3.5 times higher than the rest of the UK and the worst in Europe. Today there was a protest organised by those who have lost loved ones to drugs.
And we're getting increase upon increase of these deaths. How can that be right?
Frontline addiction workers told us it's cuts to services that have made Scotland's drug problem so bad.
I have 178 clients, all of whom would love to go into residential care, all of whom have fought for all their life to get there. There's no places, there's no beds.
The Scottish Government now has a dedicated drugs minister and has pledged £250 million of investment.
Has the government made any bigger failings than this on the drug deaths? Is this the biggest scandal?
I think this is Scotland's shame, and the Scottish Government is accepting.
Are you responsible?
Yes, we are responsible. We're not the only people responsible, but we can't for a minute downplay our own responsibilities.
Among the numbers of Scotland's drug deaths is Aaron Stewart. He died last May, aged just 26.
Hi, son.
Every night since, his mother has come here after work to say goodnight.
He's no coming back. Pointless. And he was loved beyond words. He was loved beyond words.
This is the pain behind those statistics.
Good night, darling.
And Scotland's drug crisis is still getting worse.
And there's such shocking statistics, Peter. I mean, what exactly is being done to resolve this?
Well, just to put this into some context, 2 years ago, Nicola Sturgeon declared this drug death crisis a public health emergency. This is Scotland's other public health emergency. But last year, these statistics cover 2020, the year of the global pandemic. In Scotland, among under 65s, there were twice as many drug deaths as there were COVID deaths. And we've not seen a national lockdown to tackle this. In fact, in Glasgow, a city with more than 1,000 problematic drug users, there are currently about 18 rehab beds available for people who are trying to get off of drugs. Now, the question is what has been done. The Scottish Government is pledging £250 million to tackle this. They're investing in rehab beds, and they say that these drug deaths are simply not sustainable. But the people campaigning today were saying a message to the politicians: you keep talking, we keep dying.
OK, Peter, thank you. And if you've been affected by any of the issues that we've reported on, you can find help and guidance online by searching itvnews.com. Political pressure is intensifying tonight for the government to bring about an early end to so many workers having to self-isolate. Wales has already brought forward the change to self-isolation rules for the double jabs to August the 7th. Well, now Labour wants Boris Johnson to do the same in England. Our deputy political editor, Anushka Asthana, reports.
The pingdemic has caused serious problems in this supermarket just outside Barry in South Wales. Staff being forced to stay at home has left the boss with no choice but to close stores and cut opening hours. So he's glad the Welsh Government is relaxing isolation rules 9 days early.
The impact that we're going to see in our stores immediately means we can keep stores open and maintain all of our opening hours. The challenge is therefore in the supply chain, which is heavily influenced by what happens in England, which is where the consistency and approach is really required.
One man pinged in England, who happens to be the Labour leader, agrees.
There's too much chaos. There isn't a satisfactory answer from the government as to why they're clinging on to the date of 16th of August. Welsh Labour is showing the way we should follow them.
Things aren't just speeding up in Wales, where the fully vaccinated will now avoid isolation from Saturday the 7th of August. In Scotland, the relaxation comes just 2 days later. There'll be a review on the 12th in Northern Ireland. But in England, the restrictions remain until Monday the 16th. The government thinks people cramming together to watch the Euros caused the surge in cases that resulted in the pingdemic. And now they want to be cautious.
We think really it's quite an important last remaining sort of tool in our armoury. It is the case that the Office of National Statistics have told us that 1 in 3 people who are asked to self-isolate do go on to develop coronavirus.
Today, a key scientist advising government told me that isolation rules had worked. Wales and Scotland are bringing the date forward. Are scientists seeing something different?
Certainly in Wales, at least, the levels of vaccine coverage are higher than elsewhere in the UK, and so it makes some sense for them. Essentially, school closure, I think, makes a big difference, and Scotland's closed their school earlier than south of the border.
Government sources tell me this is about Freedom Day. They argue the 4 weeks from then till August the 16th is the time they need to make sure the pandemic is under control. And they insist they are not changing their minds. Anushka Asthana, ITV News.
To Tokyo now, and Team GB picked up another 6 medals to add to its best ever start to an Olympic Games. Leading the way was Bethany Shriver, who took gold in the BMX. This after having to crowdfund her training for Tokyo when her support was withdrawn. But one of Britain's best funded events, rowing, ended with no golds for the first time since 1980. Our sports editor Steve Scott reports.
Beth Shriver and Kai White have every reason to be smiling, best friends and today British BMX history makers. BMX is a combination of raw street racing and balletic aerobatics, and at nearly 40 miles an hour it's an intoxicating watch. Shriver hadn't put a foot wrong all day, and that didn't change in the final big race. Once her nose was in front, there was no catching her.
The race day of dreams, really. I've been visualising this day for so long. For it to actually happen to me is, it's overwhelming, and I'm so happy.
Earlier, after his own semi-final, White checked out the video link to his home for inspiration. It seemed to work as he finished within touching distance of gold when claiming Britain's first ever BMX Olympic medal. It may have been the early hours in Peckham, but that didn't stop the party.
Gold would have been better for me, but I'm happy with my second. Knowing that Beth got a gold, there's nothing more I'd have wanted for her.
History's history.
History's been made, so yeah, it is what it is.
Britain's swimmers continue to leave an indelible mark on these games. The busiest of the lot, Duncan Scott, powering to silver today in the 200 metres medley. Already his third medal here, the first British swimmer to do that for more than a century. Cruelly, his lifetime best wasn't quite good enough, and you can just tell he wanted more. Earlier, Luke Greenbank bagged another slice of history with bronze in the 200 metres backstroke, Britain's first ever Olympic medal in this event. By contrast, the rowing team completed a miserable regatta with a bronze in the men's 8th. They leave Tokyo with a solitary silver, today's third, and no golds, and will now face the £24 million question about funding.
As a sport, clearly it's not good enough. We're not here to just participate and come forth and get 2 medals. We're here to win the events that we're placed in.
British eyes will be on the Olympic Stadium tomorrow, where if all goes to plan, Dina Asher-Smith will run in the 100 metres final. But given the times run by her rivals today, she'll need to find another gear if she wants to make it onto the podium. Steve Scott, ITV News, Tokyo.
And there was also success in the women's trampolining. Bryony Page added a bronze medal to the silver she claimed at the Rio Games back in 2016. Ranked 6th in the world before today's event, she was only beaten when the final 2 Chinese athletes overtook her score. Well, China currently sit at the top of the medals table. Team GB is in 6th place with 6 golds and 24 medals in total. Well, still to come in the programme. More of the family celebrations here at home as Beth and Kai rode into history, plus the cat killer behind bars tonight. Those stories and more after the break. Welcome back. Pregnant women across England are being urged to get their COVID vaccinations. Out of 171 expectant mothers admitted to hospital with COVID in the last 3 months, 98% were unvaccinated. Just 3 had had a single jab. England's head midwife said vaccination helps keep mothers and their unborn children safe. Neil Connery reports.
At King's College Hospital's maternity unit, the impact of COVID's latest wave is being felt. On average, 2 patients arrive each day now testing positive. New data suggests the Delta variant increases the chance of severe disease for pregnant women. The unit's lead midwife says the trend is worrying.
The past few weeks have been incredibly busy for maternity services at King's and across London. We are seeing a steady increase in the number of pregnant women admitted with COVID-19.
Rachel Murphy had COVID in February when she was 32 weeks pregnant. She was in intensive care. At the time, she wasn't eligible for the vaccine.
I was just so scared that I was going to die. And, you know, I went straight in and was put on oxygen. And, you know, not being able to even turn over in the bed or walk to the toilet without having the oxygen is extremely scary. Get the vaccine, because if I could even help one person or one woman or one baby not to be in the position that I was, I would urge people to get the vaccination.
Doctors say data on vaccine and pregnant women from around the world show it's vital to get jabbed.
In America, they've been routinely giving it to pregnant women and now have over 130,000 women in a registry that they are following very closely, and have to date found no evidence of any adverse outcome of any kind.
Kate Short is pregnant and has been vaccinated.
Later on in your pregnancy, if you were to get COVID, the risks of any sort of complications from what I was reading sort of increase. And I want to avoid that as much as possible, so to protect me and to protect my baby as well.
Doctors say they understand the anxieties of pregnancy, but in the face of the risks from COVID, they're stressing the importance of getting jabbed. Neil Connery, ITV News.
A former estate agent who assaulted England's chief medical officer Chris Whitty in a London park was described as yobbish by a district judge today. 24-year-old Lewis Hughes was given a suspended prison sentence of 8 weeks after admitting putting Professor Whitty in a headlock when he declined to take a photo with him. Footage of the incident was widely shared online. Human remains found in the mountains bordering France and Spain were confirmed today as those of the missing British hiker Esther Dingley. DNA testing identified a single bone as coming from Ms Dingley, who vanished last November while walking alone in the Pyrenees. And campaigners have won a High Court battle today to stop a government-approved road tunnel near the ancient monument of Stonehenge. The judge ruled the project would be unlawful. A man who knifed 9 pet cats to death in a campaign of calculated cruelty was jailed for more than 5 years today. 54-year-old Stephen Bouquet became known as the Brighton cat killer and also wounded 7 other cats. The judge said his actions struck at the very heart of family life. Geraint Vincent's report contains pictures some viewers may find upsetting.
This is Hendrix, a beloved pet cat. He was 8 months old when he came home one morning bleeding. His owners took him to the vet, where they were told it was a knife wound and that he was too badly hurt to be saved.
It's devastating, you know, because it's a member of your family. It might only be an animal, but it's a member of your family. And I've got memories of coming home and falling asleep on the sofa and waking up with a cat asleep on my chest. The flat felt really strange and very quiet because the cat wasn't there.
It was Stuart's determination to find out what had happened to Hendrix that led to the arrest of this man, Steve Bouquet. Stuart checked the footage from a neighbour's security camera. It showed Bouquet stroking Hendrix and then stabbing him. The police inquiry found that Bouquet, an ex-serviceman, had stalked the neighbourhood for nearly a year. Hendrix was one of 9 cats that he'd killed during that time. When detectives interviewed him, he denied everything, trying to pass himself off as an animal lover.
They've always been friendly to me, like, I'm sort of no threat of animals. If you put yourself over as a threat, they'll bite, scratch and do whatever you like. They come up to me, like, I give them a stroke and send them on their way. No issues with cats, dogs or anything like that.
Sentencing Bouquet to 5 years and 3 months in prison for criminal damage offences, the judge said that domestic cats are effectively family members and that Bouquet's cruelty had struck at the very heart of family life. Geraint Vincent, ITV News.
England Test cricketer Ben Stokes is to take an indefinite break from the sport. The announcement from the England and Wales Cricket Board says Stokes is stepping back to prioritise his mental well-being. It means the all-rounder, with his explosive style of batting and bowling, will take no part in the forthcoming Test series against India. OK, let's return to the Olympics and that great win on the BMX track. As back here, there were emotional scenes too, as both Kai White and Beth Shriver's families watched the friends defy the odds and make Olympic history, picking up silver and gold, as Paul Davis reports.
Their early morning celebrations will have woken the Essex village, where Beth Shriver's family watched her gold medal triumph. And hours later, a proud mum and dad was still on an Olympic high.
It was a very emotional time. Everyone was crying, just, you know. We
were all screaming at the television, as I think you may well have seen, which was slightly embarrassing. But, it just shows you the emotion and how we all felt about it.
Beth was just 9 when she began BMX competition. Since then, she's overcome injury and adversity, even relying on parents and crowdfunding when UK sport cut financial backing after the Rio Games.
At first we were like, how's she going to get to Europe, what we're going to do, and Paul just said, I'll take time off work, I'll take her, and we just worked it out. And so, you know, we wanted her to travel and do as many events as possible.
I was shown the family bike shed, fast becoming a museum of Beth's achievements.
Beth won her first European title on that, which I'm, again, very, very proud of.
Her family couldn't be in Tokyo, but Beth Shriver wasn't lacking support there. Kai White, who'd already won BMX silver himself, cheering home the girl who'd been a friend and fellow competitor since they were children. They're a tight bunch in the BMX world, so when Kai White's supporters in Peckham had finished celebrating his medal, his mum was straight on the phone to congratulate the Shriver family.
It's their dream, Paul. It's their dream. They've done us proud. They've done us proud. Well done, Paul, and I'll speak to you well soon, yeah?
They are a young man and woman who've both overcome injury and obstacles and have indeed done their families and the nation proud while elevating the sport they love. Paul Davis, ITV News, Essex.
It makes you a bit emotional, doesn't it? Right, Nina's here at 10:20. Bye-bye.